And time now to take a look at what's making headlines across the globe. And for that, I'm joined here in the studio by Alison Sargent. Hello, Alison.
Hi, Annette.
We're starting in India, aren't we, Alison, where papers are reacting to that extraordinary historic Supreme Court decision striking down that ban on gay sex.
A ban that dates back over 100 years to British colonial rule, which is why the Times of India on their front page today is hailing a second Independence Day the 2nd. The paper writes, on the 6th of September 2018 at 12:25 p.m., India entered the 21st century. All of today's editorials in the Indian papers are hailing this decision. The Times of India writes that LGBT people can finally step out fearless because as of now, gays have the law on their side, and they say that the logical next step would be to legalize gay marriage.
Now, the papers may be calling for further steps towards equality, but not everybody is on board, which is not surprising given that it is largely still a very conservative society.
Right. There's still quite a long way to go in transforming Indian society, and that's sort of the other big message we're seeing in today's papers, along with those celebrations. I thought this cartoon was a pretty good illustration of that. We see here God giving a fist bump to a Supreme Court judge and gay rights activists, suggesting sort of that they're really in the right here. God is on their side. But then we also see this group of people that is not happy about this decision. Right-wing religious groups have openly objected to this judgment. Meanwhile, papers are also pointing out that India's ruling party, the BJP, has been notably silent.
Now to Sweden, Alison, and the country is gearing up for a general election this Sunday.
Right, this vote is being closely watched around the world because a far-right party, the Sweden Democrats, are expected to get historic gains. These elections are on the front page of France's Catholic paper, La Croix, today. They're talking about a far-right wave that has overtaken Sweden, and this has been surprising and upsetting to many who want to see Sweden as a model for the success of the welfare state and a model for tolerance, because in 2015, Sweden took in more migrants per capita than anywhere else in Europe. And inevitably, some papers are saying, well, that's exactly what's caused this rise of the far right. French paper L'Opinion writes that Sweden is a textbook case of a popular vote against immigration. It's been a huge disappointment to more centrist European leaders. In this cartoon from Willem in Libération, we see Angela Merkel and French President Emmanuel Macron looking unhappily at all of those swastika arms that are growing out of the ground. And the German chancellor is saying to Macron, this dang climate change. And of course, Merkel has in recent days been dealing with the rise of the far right in her own country.
Now, staying on the topic of tolerance and immigration in Europe, Belgium has also been confronting ongoing problems with racism.
Right, something that never really goes away, but every once in a while kind of surges back into the headlines, and that has been the case in Belgium this week. It has prompted the paper Le Soir to print an all-black front page today, along with a message that reads, racism, it's not acceptable. The paper is reacting to two incidents that have rocked the country in recent days. One of them has to do with a black weather girl at the country's national TV station who posted a video to Facebook earlier this week to denounce the racist hate mail that she's been getting since she started her job. You can see her here. One woman, for example, called the station to say that her skin was too dark and that the only thing visible on the screen are her clothes. It created a big national conversation in Belgium, and the journalist told this Belgian paper that the positive messages in the wake of this she has received have given her strength, but of course it's going to take much more than that.
Indeed. Now, time to move across the other side of the Atlantic, and having said that, there's newspapers across the world who are talking about the passing of that 70s icon, Hollywood actor, Burt Reynolds, equally probably as well known for his moustache as well as his own acting career.
Yeah, the man, the myth, the mustache is a headline that I've seen around. Also phrases like heartthrob and sex symbol, largely due to this groundbreaking photo shoot he did with Cosmopolitan magazine in the early 1970s. He was the first male centerfold, and you can feast your eyes there, Annette, at that photo. A photo shoot that he himself, a photo shoot that he himself came to regret, actually, because he worried that it distracted from his reputation as an actor and maybe even cost him an Oscar. But many papers, like the Washington Post, are saluting it as really one of his greatest legacies. The paper writes that he changed the way we thought about sex, notably recognizing that women have desires as well. This article is a really interesting read. I highly recommend it. But since it would be wrong and probably inaccurate to reduce Burt Reynolds to a centerfold, I also recommend...
No, we can't do that.
Right, we can't do. We know better than that as women.
Yes, of course.
I also recommend reading this obituary from the LA Times. The paper writes about his his trademark self-deprecating charm, a sense of humor that I'd say probably made him willing to do that photo shoot, and he did eventually win his Oscar.
And finally, Alison, a very quick sneak peek at a album from another iconic heartthrob who's no longer with us.
No, this time it is a French heartthrob. I think for some he's a heartthrob. I'm talking about the late Johnny Hallyday, or the French Elvis, as we like to call him here. His record label has announced that they will be releasing a posthumous album from the singer. You can see the cover of it here in Le Figaro, and the title is My Country is Love, Mon Pays c'est l'amour. Fans here in France will be marking their calendars. There's going to be a lot of excitement, I imagine. It is due out on October 19th.
That's a very unique French thing indeed. Thanks for that, Alison. And if you want to take a look at the stories that Alison has been talking about, you can, of course, head to our website, that being france24.com.